What's better than shopping for plants? Shopping with a friend. Today we're doing a collaboration between my channel, Crybaby Sentimental Homestead, and Reba's the gardening artist. So check out Reba the gardening artist on her channel. We're trying to post at the same time so you can see kind of side by side the stuff that we're interested in. I'm here starting off at Home Depot. We're going to do Home Depot and Lowe's, looking at the different types of plants that they have for sale. Of course, Home Depot is where I actually go there a lot, and doesn't mean you have to buy plants every time you go. It's $100 here for this espalier apple tree. Actually, my youngest son and my husband bought me one for Mother's Day or my birthday several years ago, and it's just absolutely lovely. There's several different types of apples all grafted together onto this espalier apple tree. And this is one of the ways that you can actually get fruit into smaller spaces. So if you have a small yard, any space, like especially if you have like um fence lines and things like that, where you can have maximize the your square footage in terms of having an edible landscape. I love the idea of having a espaliered fruit trees around the property, and you can do it yourself. So there's a lot of different resources, and I'm trying to get into this a little bit more, of doing this myself, not just buying ones that are already done. I'm also going to be trying to graft onto the fruit trees I already have. I actually have a lot of cherry suckers around my yard. And so I thought, you know what? That's an opportunity for me to graft in some stone fruit. So check out my channel. I will be doing some really cool projects in the near future, trying to do this on a dime. So you can plant things from seeds. And then if it works out really well and the fruit is not, so it's subpar, you can graft in other varieties. And the scion wood to graft in is a lot cheaper than buying a full grown tree. So, gone are the days when I'm going to stores and spending a lot on an actual tree. I have so many already. At this point, I'm doing air layering and things like that, where I'm actually propagating the trees that I already have. If you missed your window for growing tomatoes and you just want that satisfaction of growing your own herbs, tomatoes, that kind of stuff, I would recommend getting something like this, where you get your own little herb garden, you get your own almost mature fruit, you're going to get fruit off of it. Actually, tomatoes and peppers are technically perennial. Now, tomatoes are more prone to diseases, but after you've harvested, you can cut it back really smaller and you can bring it inside and then try growing it for a second year. It does work. Basils are, for the most part, there are a few perennial basils, but the kind of basil we like to have in pestos and caprese salads, things like that, those are annuals. But what's nice about buying these plants like this is that they're actually really hard to grow from seed, or I should say, they take a long time. So to get to this point, so it's like, you know what? If you were at a grocery store, you would pay more for it that way. Um, I I'm definitely going to get some strawberries. We'll get to that later. I have strawberries everywhere, but these have pink flowers, so I'm kind of spanning to that a little bit early. But because I'm going to definitely check out like the clearance areas and so forth, and I'm trying to pinch my pennies at this point, because I have spent a lot of money on my garden. Every year I'll have somebody new in my life say, "Hey, I bet you save so much money on your garden," and I have to laugh because it's such a hobby and an obsession for me. I spend a lot of money on my garden. This is celosia, and it's so beautiful. I actually got a lot of seeds, and these are almost $30 for. It's not just one plant in there though. There's like several plants. Probably I'm gonna guess 5 or 6 in there, maybe more. And you can buy them smaller for cheaper at Home Depot and Lowe's. Um, you can also plant them from seeds. So you can buy seeds from places like Baker Creek. They have lots of different varieties and lots of great, really like trendy commercials about it. But Celosia are great. And then, of course, you're going to get some lilies in here. Now, these are toxic lilies, so be very careful with your pets, especially cats for some reason. Even cut flowers. I had a friend whose cat licked the water that the lilies were in and got really sick and almost died. So be very, very careful with lilies. If you're worried about lilies, you might want to go for something called daylilies, which are not true lilies. I just love this bumblebee. It's so big. It's like barely fits in there. And I believe this is a Rose of Sharon, and absolutely love them. I started growing them after my aunt Sharon passed away, and I actually recently did a seed swap with someone in my community where I gave them seeds and they gave me a Rose of Sharon. So, that's something you can do too if you're trying to be frugal, is look in your community and see if there's people who are, or there are people who are willing to trade you something that you have in excess for something that they have. This here is called Portulaca grandiflora or moss rose. And yes, it is related to Purslane, but it's a different species. So it's in the same genus, Portulaca grandiflora, which basically means big flower, and a Portulaca means like milky. So the carrying milk, which means it's succulent. So we'll see some more of that a little bit later. I'll go into a little bit more detail. I love these flowers here. Kind of I like that vertical flower look of like, think of like hollyhocks, um, foxglove. Be careful. Don't handle foxglove because it's actually very toxic. They actually use foxglove, some properties of foxglove in heart medications, and it is very toxic if you are handling them. So, I don't grow foxglove on purpose, but I do allow it to grow if I get it as a weed. But I love hollyhocks. I love gladiolas. I love that really vertical, tall, um, floral, look. And oh, that's so beautiful. I just love flowers. I When I first started gardening, I didn't grow flowers. I only grew things that were edible, and I only grew herbs, anything that had an actual use. Whether it's like trying to repel insects, certain insects, or repel pests. Um and then of course you have to look for your deals. I didn't buy any of these. It reminds me of like a circus, like, and that's not what I'm going for, but I think they're pretty. Now, definitely sunflowers here, beautiful. I've never met anybody who doesn't love sunflowers. They're absolutely gorgeous. And these are kind of like a shorter variety that's more ornamental. But you can plant sunflowers from seeds, obviously, and you can buy seeds from places like the Dollar Tree. It's usually like four for $1.25. For actually from like Goodwill, and there's usually are two for $1. Check out your different good deals. You can also plant bird seed, sunflower seeds from bird seed. It won't be, a special variety like teddy bear or, teddy bear sunflowers or whatever, but you will get sunflowers from sunflower seeds. Just not the kind that are already cooked and salted and toasted, all that kind of stuff. Those are obviously dead. But grow your own sunflowers, and you just have to have patience. So if you want to save money, you have to be patient. If you don't want to be patient, you're going to have to spend money. Now, these arrangements here, okay, I'll tell you this. This might be like, it's $37. You have to price it out though. So like if you looked at them and you're like, okay, those are all plants I would buy individually, look at how much each one would cost. Sometimes it's a better deal to buy them in an arrangement like that. But don't keep them like that because that is not enough space for most of those plants. And whenever I've tried to leave them in an arrangement like that, they look really beautiful for a certain amount of time, and then some of the plants would die, and it end up usually with one really good plant, and then the rest of them would die. So you can buy them like that, have them as an arrangement that looks really pretty for a while, then transplant them each into their own areas. I love cone flowers. I actually have cone flowers in my garden, different colors. I love echinacea, the purple cone flower, and I have some other colors growing as well. And I have seeds. And if you want to grow echinacea from seed, you have to cold stratify them. That means they need like a damp paper towel in a Ziploc baggie in the refrigerator for a certain amount of time. Um, or you can plant seeds in the fall and then they should sprout in the spring or summer. One thing, if you really like the look of the ornamental onions and the other ornamental alliums, instead of buying the plants, my recommendation would to plant chives, just regular chives. The flowers on the chives are so beautiful. I'm actually doing a land race on that's like you're planting the seeds and then planting those seeds and then planting the seeds from those again and again and again. So I'm doing a land race on chives where I'm selecting for the biggest flowers. So I'm still getting an edible chive, but I'm getting the really beautiful ornamental look. So that's something that's kind of like a fun thing you can do in your garden. And I also, of course, I grow daisies. Shasta daisies are beautiful. If you grow oxeye daisies and bring them inside, then they will smell really bad. So, if you're going to grow oxeye daisies, grow them outside. Do not bring them in. But Shasta daisies are absolutely beautiful. Alaska daisies are beautiful. I always check out the bargain area to see what they have for sale. They're $2. Now, if I'm looking at something and it's $1 or $2 at this time of year and it doesn't look great and it's an annual, then I probably will pass. Now, this is a perennial, $7 for a hydrangea. You know what? You you can just let it grow. I know it doesn't look beautiful, but for $7 for a hydrangea, that's actually a really good deal. I already have some, and if I want to do cuttings and stuff, I can do that myself. I already have plenty, and I don't have space for more things like that. Like I have lots of rhodies and hydrangea and azaleas and things that have, I don't want to say don't have a purpose, but they don't have a culinary, they're not purpose. They're not going to feed us. There's no like edible aspect to them. So I'm not going to do those. Now those, I think those are pinks. And they're similar enough to rose campion that I don't think I'm going to give them a space in my garden because rose campion are so easy to grow. And then you always get them self-seeding and it's just so easy. If you want to grow something like that, like those pinks, I would do rose campion. Now that one there that I decided to get is a canna, and the reason I bought it is because it's called Maria, which is my mother-in-law's name. So I bought the Maria canna, and I think there's probably 5 plants in that container. Now for seeds, it's not too late to grow lettuce. Black seeded Simpson is probably one of the best lettuces you can actually get. That's why I did the little thumbs up sign because when I first started gardening, I tried lots of different types and I actually got black seeded Simpson lettuce from the Dollar Tree. And, you know, you might still be able to find them there. If not, next year when it rolls around, they start putting stuff out usually like in February, March. Look and see, and you can get them. It's basically 33 cents a pack for seeds at the Dollar Tree. And black seed Simpson, one thing I love about them is that they self-seed. They do get bitter in the hot summer sun, but most lettuces do. Even the ones that say that they're slow to bolt or they're heat resistant, I still think they taste really bitter. The thing is though, let them go to seed, and lettuces go to seed so fast in the summer that you might as well let it go to seed, and it doesn't look pretty for a second. It looks kind of weedy, but then you'll get so many seeds and you can immediately plant those seeds and get a crop that will taste very good because it'll be maturing into colder weather. You want your lettuces planted early in the spring, like maybe even plant them indoors and then set them out in May. Even planting them in April, if you lose a few seeds to the cold weather, it's okay. That's nature. That's what I'm talking about chives. Plant chives. They are beautiful. They look like flowers. They look ornamental and they're edible. I have garlic chives. I have onion chives. I have regular chives. Um, so definitely they're worth their place in the garden. And if you can't, I shouldn't say if you can, if you have a hard time growing things like onions and garlic, you can eat chives in place of them. And they are perennial and often self-seeding. I was thinking of making some of these terrarium type things, and they have them at Home Depot, and they have different They have different like setups, very similar, okay, but they have different terrariums at Lowe's. We'll see those in a minute. I love prayer plant. The prayer plant is really cool because it has like a joint on the stem, and when it's nighttime, it actually bows. So it actually, like, it almost has like an elbow or a knee. It bows down. And I just think it's absolutely beautiful. So I've been propagating. I actually divided my prayer plant in my classroom. So I've got a couple now. Now these are kind of trained. So it's like if you're into like topiaries and bonsais and things like that, doing something with bamboo might be up your alley. My husband brought home a bunch of bamboo cuttings that are like for indoors that I think would be fun to do. I had one of these plants. I love it, and I gave it away because I'm on a sunshine committee at work where, like, if someone's loved one passes away, the flamingo flower, um, we give them a plant in a nice pot. And so one year, like actually 2 years in a row, a lot of my staff members lost parents, siblings, spouses. And so I gave away a ton of plants, and I gave away my only flamingo plant. And I think that was really special. But one day I do want to get more of those. I do want to get another one to replace it. Pretty sure it's toxic for pets, so be very careful. I keep my toxic plants in rooms where our pets never go. So that's something to think about. Like if you have like a bathroom or maybe a master bedroom where you want to have some plants, but you don't let pets in your room, then that's where I would keep all the ones that have those properties. Remember, toxic plants typically, unless we're talking about the yew tree or something like that, where it's toxic to breathe the air that they're in, um, toxic plants are generally if you touch them or eat them. So, like, don't go around touching foxglove. Don't go around eating lilies, right? Be smart. Do your research. Know what you're bringing into your house. If you have toddlers, I would not have any plants at all that have toxic flowers, things like that. Like my granddaughter is still a little 7-month-old baby, and she'll put anything in her mouth, especially if it's pretty. She'll think it's like a berry. So we're very, very careful not to let her have any of those types of things. So be careful, guys. Um, Growing things like pothos is so easy. And I was trying to show you close up that some of those plants have more than one plant in them. One of the tricks they do, which is to your advantage, by the way, is to make a plant look more full. They actually put in lots of rooted cuttings, and that means that each rooted cutting is a separate plant. So if you have like one stem and leaf die, that does not mean the entire plant is the whole entire bundle of plants is going to die too. So, and if they give you one plant and it's really vigorous, you can take cuttings, put them in water or soil, and you get a new plant out of it. That's what I'll often do. I'll look at the plants and I'll see, does it look like there's like a dozen rooted cuttings in there? Or does it look like I could take a dozen rooted cuttings and root them? And then you can actually possibly get your money back or in trade. So like I'm part of a lot of different gardening groups where we trade cuttings. We trade plants and things like that. So like if I get one plant for $10 or $20, I can divide it up a little bit. Like there's lots of babies in there. There's several different plants in that one container. And I didn't buy it, but I do end up getting one of them because one of the tricks is you can swap with other people. That one's called a friendship plant. So I also like names of plants. So like if you want to give someone a gift and it's called the friendship plant, it's probably called the friendship plant because it's easy to propagate. Okay. This here is called the um Pilea. So it's Pilea. Now this one is I've always thought of this one as Pilea, but there's apparently like 700 different varieties. This is mine. I bought one at it was like a community yard sale that was like in an office building. I bought one that was that size, and I had it in my kitchen window and it was going crazy. I knew it needed to be trimmed back. and propagated. So I took it apart and I was so surprised. And I put it over here in the shade, and my cherry tree kept dropping cherries into it. This was my original, okay? So I cut it out, I separated it out, I put it into like just this container to keep it alive, and already it has new growth on it. So this is like the mother plant, and I got one, two, three, four, looks like five, and on this side, and then on the other side, I had a couple more. So I think I ended up getting like I'm I'm estimating, but I think I got 8 plants out of that one. This is also a Pilea. So I was interested. I was kind of confused. I was like, "What? How is this a Pilea?" It is a Pilea from the same genus, different cultivar, different species, but they are both Pilea. This here is a Z plant. I've wanted one for a really long time. So what I did was I bought the green Z plant and I swapped. So I gave my friend Reba, the gardening artist, she had already gotten a black Z plant that she had at home. So she gave me some of her black Z plant and I gave her some of my green Z plant. We did just a swap right after this. So even though I didn't spend a lot of money and I didn't get a lot of plants, I ended up getting a lot of plants because of the swapping. So that's one thing to do too. Is like if you have a good friend and you're both into propagating plants, go together and you'd be like, okay, you get that one, I'll get this one. Give me a cutting of yours, I'll give you a cutting of mine. Or I can see that this plant has several little rooted cuttings in there. I could tell that they're separate plants. So does yours. When we get home, give me a little bit of yours, I'll give you a little bit of mine. And so it's a really good deal. And then I even had a few extras that I can swap whenever my groups get together and do extra swaps. I love Hoya. I don't have any Hoya right now that are doing that. I don't have any. I had one that was a heart shaped leaf Hoya, but it was just one leaf and it was like a rooted cutting. Um if I ever got that again, I would get an established plant and try doing cuttings myself because my rooted cutting, I think it lived for like 2 years, but it never grew. So I don't know what the deal was with that one. This is a Monstera. There are so many different types of Monsteras. Um, I don't know if this is one that's called Swiss cheese plant. I do have the one that's called Swiss cheese. I also have Monstera deliciosa. I was looking at this one for a while because I do have a rooted cutting of this, and that was just reminding me that I need to upplant it. So I I kind of go back and forth. It's okay to put things back. I did get this one because I wanted to trade Reba for her black one too. I had actually gone online and was like exchanging messages with somebody who looked pretty normal, and then all of a sudden their profile changed and it was really like, I don't want to say like satanic, it was goth or something. It scared me. It was really scary, and I was like, you know what? It turned out okay because a person ended up selling their plant instead of swapping, and I was like, I was probably safer that way. Um, be careful of people who change their profile names or change their pictures if you're meeting somebody. Always, if you're doing like a plant swap or whatever, do it in a public place. With the plant, the hanging pots here, I was really interested in the one that was called Teddy Bear. It was soft. The ferns look really good too. But this one here, this one's actually reminds me of my oh, what are they called? Zabrinas. Oh, I was going to show you here too. If you look at the potted plants, you can save a lot of money by getting one that's just a little bit smaller. So this one here is $20 versus almost $40. And they almost look the same size, but you're paying for the soil. So look at my cuttings. So my friend got some plants. One of them is a basket plant, but it's a different variety than what I have. I decided to cut in some footage of me um, I went ahead and potted up the cuttings and the transplants. And don't forget to identify my shoes there. They are Croc knockoffs and they are Monsteras, variegated. So they're white and green. And people laugh at me for my shoes, but you know what? They're so comfortable. And when you're gardening, you can just wash your shoes out. So like you don't have to worry about, messing up your different accessories. Now I did just go ahead and stick this in soil. It will root easily. Basket plants are really easy to root from cuttings. You can root them in water also. Not everything roots well in water, but basket plants do root really well. Even if you just have like a long, they'll set up these like long runners. Even if you just have a runner that has rooted for me before and I got a whole new plant, even when it didn't have the basket plant formed on it yet. So those are really easy to propagate. This is the Black Z plant I got from Reba, the gardening artist. Remember, this is a collaboration. So she actually did a video of the same place, but from her perspective. So you're going to want to check out her video, and I'm going to link hers in the description and comments so that you'll check hers out as well. But so I gave her some of my green Z plant. She gave me some of my of her. Oh wait, she gave me black. I gave her green. Um, and by the way, when you buy different colored plants, like variegated, or it's black, or it's a different, random color that's not normal, like if you go to the store and you see celosia, or you see different kinds of plants, one's like all green or one's all, purple, the green one's gonna do better. The other colors are for fun. They're basically genetic mutations, and sometimes they will even revert back to other colors. So you might buy a variegated plant for a lot more money, and then depending on lighting and nutrition, or like the nutrients and stress, and sometimes just no matter what you do, it can revert. So just be careful, like, that you don't waste your money on things that are kind of novelty. So I did really want the black sea plant, and I got that. This here again is Pilea. So think of Leah like a girl's name, and Pilea. It's a Pilea, and it's like moon something Pilea. So it's different than the one that I get, which I already have, that looks like little coins. The one that looks like coins is actually like a money plant. There's several different plants that are called money plant. So that's a common name. I will be planting um, lunaria from seeds. So if you want to see that in the future, make sure you like, subscribe, and all that stuff. But I did get my hands on some lunaria seeds, and I'll be planting those in the future. I went ahead and transplanted those cuttings. And so those are plants. Those are free because we did some swapping. And I think I found a broken piece of one on the ground. And yes, you're probably not supposed to take those, but I know they're going to go in the garbage can. And so sometimes I break rules because I can't handle the idea of something dying. So if it's alive and it could be, stay alive, or someone's going to throw in the trash can. I also like when I'm walking around the neighborhood, if I find like seeds on the ground, whether it's just like a maple seed, like a Japanese maple, I save them. If I see um, fruit falling on the ground, like from the Kusa dogwood trees, by the way, Kusa dogwoods are actually edible. The fruit is. It does have a little bit of a like a stevia type aftertaste. Um, and it's full of seeds, and they're as hard as a rock. So you save those seeds, I plant them, and for years and years the squirrels and stuff wouldn't eat them, but as soon as they get desperate, they will. So that's kind of like a starvation food for wildlife. So I like to grow Kusa dogwoods. Whenever I see seeds, I collect them. Whenever I find a good deal on plants, I usually pick them up. I am running out of space, but I will be teaching a botany class next year, and so I like to do cuttings. Anything that does well with cuttings, I will propagate, and then all of my students end up being able to propagate all kinds of cool stuff. Okay, if you go with a carnivorous plant, by the way, they are still plants. They still conduct photosynthesis. They're not actually eating the bugs. They grow in poor soil, so they don't get the nitrogen and stuff like that from the soil. They get it from the insects that they break down. Every little um leaf that closes up, it only closes up once. So when people go around tricking them and they close up, that individual little part's going to die off. So that's why I think one of the reasons why I've struggled with um, the carnivorous plants is because my students would try to like make them close, and then they would basically have nutrient deficiencies. So what I would do in the future is grow something like a Cape Sundew. Cape Sundews are really great if you're into carnivorous plants, and they will help you with if you have fungus gnat problems. So go with Cape Sundew for carnivorous plants. That's a really great option. And if you do get a Venus flytrap, make sure you do not water it with tap water because they are very sensitive. You'd want like really fancy water for them, and just little drops on them. Um, they can't handle like whatever we are putting into our water to keep it clean, whether that's chlorine or whatever. They can't handle it. Orchids are a little bit challenging for me. And I will say I have a thing about fake plants. Like I hate them. Like, I think I have a few fake plants because it's like art stuff. Um, but orchids are so beautiful. The fake plant orchids are so like almost realistic. If I was gonna do an orchid, it'd probably have to be fake because I kill them. These would make great gifts. Now these are several different plants together. It almost looks like they're in a candle container. Um, But these would make wonderful gifts for Christmas. Now, this is not Home Depot now. We are at Lowe's. This is Lowe's from here on out. You can plant in, this is reminding me, you can plant in cups. This does not have any drainage. So like if you're at Goodwill, Salvation Army, Value Village, and they are on to us. They know that gardeners and houseplant lovers are like going there and buying pots, and they've upped the prices on everything, but not really on their cups. And if let's say you have a cup and it has a tiny little bit of crack, or you think it might not be safe to drink out of, maybe you think, you're not sure what kind of paint they used, you can plant your ornamental succulents in there. That would be a great choice because you're not going to give them very much water, right? So the drainage is not that important if you're only giving them little drops. These here are air plants. You don't technically have to have them in a planter. But if you have a kid who like has an obsession with a certain animal, like I have a friend that they're $8 here and you get the little pot and the plant. But her son was really obsessed with giraffes for a long time. So I'm like, for $8, you get like a no nonsense kind of plant. Now I've killed so many air plants. You do have to water them. So I think the deal with those is like you soak the plant in water and then you just put it back. Like you don't have it in soil. So I will be honest that the plants I've struggled with were the ones that should have been the easiest, like air plants. I try to take care of them too much. Over here we see bamboo growing in what could be a shot glass. Now I don't drink alcohol, but I like shot glasses for propagating plants. So that works really well. And a lot of people like the aesthetic of like the hydroponics, aquaponics, the plants in a glass container where you can see the roots. That does look really cool. Now, long term, it's not the best, but think of like floral arrangements in a bouquet of flowers. You leave it like that for a while, it roots, and then you can transplant it and put something else in there. I love the idea of having these terrariums with corks. Now, you can use any clear container. It could be a mason jar, does not have to have a cork. I recently got a bunch of wine corks because I bought from somebody on Marketplace or Craigslist or something, some craft stuff, and there's a whole bag of corks in there. So I might do that with something. I'm thinking of like makeshift. I'll update you later if I come up with a good idea. Sometimes I just like keep it to myself until I it pans out. And if it's a total failure, I might warn you. I might warn you, like, don't do this. I tried it, didn't work. Um, but the succulents here are $5. Some of them are $6. Now, a lot of succulents root well from cuttings, or like a leaf division, just take it one leaf if you get the entire leaf off of it. Some of them you can actually graft, like these are grafted together. These are not just like one cactus, it's like a cactus with something grafted on top of it. Um, so that's kind of interesting. I haven't done that myself, but basically you can take different types like of succulents and you can put them together. Um, I am interested in doing things like that in the future. And I've done a lot of research and I think I'm getting to the point where I have enough confidence to try. Um, I actually used to my first major house plant was a cactus that kept having babies. It was super cute and it had so many this is funny. I don't know if they did this on purpose or if somebody came around with googly eyes. Did you see Reba in the background? That was just a little cameo. Please check out her video because we're trying to promote each other's channels. Um, but my first house plant was a cactus and it had 30 something babies. I was constantly giving them away. And my husband insisted on putting them outside, and it got cold one night in the summertime, and I lost all of them. You can pick up these guides, most gardening places, and sometimes even in your like city might have some information about like noxious weeds or how to garden, how to like save water, how to do like the landscaping where you basically aren't using um very much water. You're trying to conserve, especially like if you're in places like California. But I've noticed that, and I've actually picked up a couple of those in the past and passed them along in my gardening and science classes so that kids can kind of get an idea of ideas of like how to prevent pests naturally, um, how to save water, what things could grow together, what plants attract certain, pests and stuff like that. Now, I'm looking at the Coleus. Now, I think I earlier I said celosia. This is Coleus. Um, and these ones are kind of expensive. They have a little bit of creeping Jenny on the bottom. I think it's creeping Jenny anyway. Now, if you were to price it out and you're like, okay, well, okay, I'm going to take a tangent for a second. Portulaca moss rose. You might notice that it looks very similar to Vertalaga. Well, I always say Vertalaga, it's Portulaca. Um, in Spanish, they call this plant by the name of its genus. This is the Portulaca grandiflora, which Portulaca means like carrying milk, which means it's succulent. Grandiflora means big flower. So this is an ornamental version of Portulaca, which is the moss rose. It's a flowering ornamental type. Um, the type that I usually grow in my garden is the Portulaca, and some say so again, this is the Portulaca grandiflora, which is the moss rose. The one that I normally grow is the Portulaca. Some say Oleracia, some say Oleracea. And I actually looked up the pronunciation guides and they say it both ways, so you say how you want to. The Oleracia or Oleracea means a vegetable. So if you have Portulaca, now I'm showing footage of something else in the background, but the Portulaca Oleracea or Oleracia means carrying milk, and then the Oleracia means a vegetable. So the kind I grow, which you call Purslane, that one's edible. And I looked up the moss rose, and some say it is, some say it isn't, some say it's not worth the risk. I'd say it's not worth the risk. It's just for being beautiful. And I also looked up whether it was perennial or annual. The seed packet I had said it was annual. All the stuff I was seeing here was saying annual, and it's only because it's annual in a colder climate, but it's a perennial in warmer climates. So if you buy something that says annual at a box store like this, even if you buy seeds and it says annual, look it up and see if it's an annual everywhere or if it's an annual only in your zone. By the way, if they call something an annual and it has the potential of being a perennial, it's a perennial. They should say it's a frost sensitive or cold sensitive perennial or something like that would be more accurate scientifically, because saying something is an annual means it completes its life cycle in one season, and the moss rose does not complete its entire life cycle in one season. Um, but you can enjoy it for a season if you plant it outdoors and you live in a colder climate like Washington State, where I live. It will supposedly die down to the ground and it'll be gone. Some people say it might die to the ground and grow back. Now, okay, I was talking about the Coleus here. These were way cheaper for the green. So the green ones, that's probably how it's supposed to be. And the Coleus that's all those fancy colors are probably some kind of mutation. Um, Now, mutations are genetic, which means mutations can be inherited on offspring. So, if you were to propagate it from seeds, you would probably get similar, or sometimes you might have a throwback to the green. Um, these big containers here, um, because of genes, they're so expensive, and a lot of the plants people grow in them. Okay, that's $22 for that canna. But I'm going to show you, the point is I went to the clearance and I got one for $5 because they didn't look good at the other store, right? So, I did buy the canna Maria because I like to plant things in honor of family members. And Maria is the name of my mother-in-law. It's also the name of her 5 daughters and my daughter's middle name, because Catholic and everything. So I did go ahead and buy that one from the previous store. Now, I saved myself like at least $15 to $20 by buying it from the clearance. The flowers now don't look great for me, my yellow flowers for my canna, but it's a perennial. It's going to come back next year. Um that's how I got my cannas in the front yard that I have in a pot. Uh, a really nice lady, but she doesn't like to have anything look not unalive in her garden, even if it's dormant. So she gave my husband, she's a property owner. She gave my husband a really beautiful big pot and the canna that was in it that looked like it was gone. And every year it pops back up and it's absolutely gorgeous. I got it for free because my husband does landscaping, and the lady didn't want it. She also gave me a bunch of pots of other plants, lots of different daffodils and what were they? All different kinds of bulb, basically anything that dies back, all the bulbs. And so I'm like, I got so many free plants. It's insane. So I really don't need to be shopping for plants anymore. I am setting myself a really, really hard budget of basically nothing on plants from now on, where if I sell a plant, I can buy a plant. If I sell something on Marketplace, even if it's not a plant, if I sell something of mine and I get a little bit of spending money, I can spend it on whatever I want to. But I've decided I need to really focus on paying down my debts because I want to be debt free. It's a trap. So if you are really into any collections of things, like I collect plants, I collect seeds, I just love it. But I am at the point where even if it's $1, I have to look at it, my budget, and think, okay, do I have this in my budget, or what am I willing to not have so I can have that? you know um just being really, really frugal from here on out. So I'm all about now going to the clearance section, seeing what we can get, buying a younger plant instead of an older plant, buying a smaller plant, buying a container that has multiple types of plants that I would have bought individually, um and then separating them and planting them in their own containers. Upcycling containers. I save creamer bottles and I'll cut the top part off, and you can melt holes or drill holes in the bottom. If they're white all the way around, you could use Sharpie markers and decorate them and make your own little pots. So these here were half off. So they were like 9.50, I think. And I chose two of the hanging baskets that had lots of runners. So the runners on here had flowers and fruits already. So what I did when I got home is if I had a runner on there that didn't have flowers or fruit, I left the ones that had flowers and fruits on them so that they'll mature and then I'll propagate them later. But any of the runners that didn't have flowers and fruits, but I had a good plant growing on it, I went ahead and transplanted those. So I'm going to have a lot of plants. I was counting them, how many I had on them. So if you count how many runners, how many plants were in the container and how many plants were running off the sides, I got them for about $1 a plant. And these have really pretty pink flowers, and the fruit is just as good as the ones with the white flowers. So, um, this is my first year growing the strawberries that have pink or red flowers. I've always grown, I don't want to say basic varieties, but more mainstream varieties. I don't know how they came about getting types that have pink flowers. I don't think they're GMO, but I guess it could be. I don't think so though. So, I went ahead and brought those two of them home. So I basically got two for one. So I spent $20 on these two. They looks like two plants, but there are, if you look at the runners hanging off the side, there are so many more plants there. So my granddaughter absolutely loves strawberries and all different types of berries. So I think of like baby food. It's like $1 for one little jar of baby food. And like I definitely can get that off of one of my plants. So that's like food for my grandbaby. That's tons of plants. And in the future it's groceries. So I definitely can justify that those two. If you are trying to save money, if you can like merge something that you're really interested in with something that you actually need, then it offsets the cost. Like I'm planting the strawberries, I'm enjoying the flowers, the plants are beautiful, and we're getting berries off of them. It's food, it's groceries. I can justify that. Anyway, I did a really frugal shopping haul here on both stores at Home Depot and at Lowe's. At Lowe's, I think all I bought were the two strawberry plants. Reba, if I have missed something, you can comment below, but I'm pretty sure all I got at Lowe's was the two strawberries. And when I was at Home Depot, I bought the $5 um, uh, Maria variety of canna and the Z plant. And then I swapped for other plants. So I made such a haul and then I spent barely anything, and you can too. So think about, your friendships and stuff. Can you get rooted cuttings from somebody? Can you just get a cutting and you root it yourself? If you buy a plant and it has multiple plants in one container, can you divide that up and swap with somebody? I know one thing that Reba is doing is she'll buy a plant if it has like two or three inside of it. She'll keep one and she'll sell the other two on Marketplace or whatever, different online forums. And then basically, after all said and done, you got your plant for free, right? So that's a great idea. I love it. Absolutely love it. Um, and I'm going to be doing a lot more frugal stuff because I'm really analyzing debt and making sure that it doesn't, I don't stay there. So, and gardening can save you money if you do it right. But if you really love it and you're into like botany like I am and you want one of everything, it's like, I guess I think my property is Noah's Ark for plants. So I like want two of everything, three would be better if there was space. Anyway, everybody, you know what I say at the end of my videos. Be good, be sweet, grow a garden if you want to eat, and I'll see you next time. And don't forget to click on the link below to check out Reba's video on our Girls' Day Out going to Home Depot and Lowe's. And I will be back with more content next week. See you soon.